So here goes nothing. Um, I'd like to start off with this is the first inception of a video, and my hopes is that it does well. My name's Nick Kovach, and you can read more about me in the About Me section. But this first post or the first podcast, if this becomes a podcast, is to connect what are in the recent movie about dwarves and elves, and how dwarves and elves never ever get along. So the Hobbit movie that came out back Christmas time this past year um, is to talk about how it's actually hitting on something extremely fundamental to human nature, which is there's all sorts of types of people that don't get along, but there is beauty in the connection of what each person emphasizes, and there's actually not a point for competition to say that you can't get along. Um, the pinnacle example I will share towards the end of this podcast, but to start off with, just to give you guys an idea that this is not just from Lord of the Rings, is you can actually find this throughout human history as well as other movies and stories, and ultimately in the Bible as well, which I would like to suggest to you the idea of the movie Miracle, when you have hockey players from Boston and Minnesota. They don't get along very well, um, but they're both united by their love of hockey. And if only they can see that, and you see that in the movie by the friendship of McCallahan and O'Clanahan. Um, you also have the connection of the Cold War, the West versus the East, if you will. Communism versus capitalism. Capitalism focuses on the individual and says, I have a right. The the East focuses on, communism focuses on the collective good. Um, without getting into talking about communism and all of that fun stuff, is the East has always traditionally emphasized the point that we need community, which we do, but not to the exclusion of the individual. And same way with the West. The West has a critique as well. It's good to emphasize the individual, but not uh, at the compromise of losing the community. So, and then the pinnacle example of people not getting along and yet having a good that they want to emphasize is shepherds and farmers. This is first and foremost shown in the Bible with Genesis chapter 4, verses 1 through 16, the story of Cain and Abel. Cain was a farmer, and Abel was a shepherd. I'm not going to reiterate the story for you guys. Hopefully you guys know the story of Cain and Abel. But you can petition me to tell it if you so wish. But Cain and Abel, basically, farmer and a shepherd. Why? One person. Another example from Scripture is David and Saul. David was David was a shepherd. Saul was a farmer. Once again, two people that did not get along. So the question is, why do they not get along? There's different points to emphasize out of these things. You have as I already expressed, the need between individualism and community. Yet at the same time, they both seek a good, something beautiful, something wonderful. You can see this in shepherds and farmers. Shepherds like to go where the wind blows. They are the extroverts, if you will. Um, they go with the breeze. They go where their flock goes. And farmers like to be rooted. And that's why they plant things. They're staying connected to the earth. They like that. And there's good in both. But back to the idea of elves and dwarves, is if you notice, elves and dwarves both have a love for beautiful things, if you will. The elves have a love for growing and living things, usually plants and forests and all those great and wonderful things. And dwarves have a love for beauty as well, and the metals and precious stones of the earth. They like to dig in the earth to see this beauty. whereas elves tend to look for beauty outside the world. But there's beauty to be sought in both, and actually, it's when they're combined, when jewels, and metals, and everything is combined with the natural beauty of things, that you have something truly extravagant. Which is why I think that um, Tolkien had a really great and wonderful point to why we can be so diametrically opposed to these goods and yet really accomplish something amazing. Which the sad thing is, you don't see it so much in The Hobbit. Is The Hobbit is just basically a prequel. It's showing the beginning of the stories. You're starting to understand the reason why elves and dwarves don't like each other. Um, but ultimately, it comes to fruition, and you find hope, which is riddled throughout Tolkien's literatures. You cannot escape that virtue of hope. And it's found in The Lord of the Rings, which is the book, the three books that come after The Hobbit. And you find it in the friendship of Legolas and Gimli. Legolas is a wolf, or is a wolf. I don't know why I said wolf. Legolas is a dwarf. Wow. Legolas is an elf. Um, and Gimli is a dwarf. And they're both extremely passionate about what they are. Yet at the same time, through their travels, they find that they're friends. They both desire beauty. They both desire love, and they each have their things that they love, and they find that that love is actually not full until it's shared. Um, in throughout the Lord of the Rings is especially after Two Towers, which is the second book, is Legolas and Gimli make a promise if they survive this great war that is happening, that Legolas will come and visit the caves of Helm's Deep with um, Legolas will go with Gimli to explore those and know the world of stone. That Legolas is kind of like, hey, I don't know that I like it. And then Gimli will go to the forest of Fangorn, which is a great and wonderful growing place. And Gimli is very nervous about that because he tends to not like plants and everything. The trees always made him very nervous. So there is beauty, there is reconciliation between these. But what truly makes it amazing and wonderful is that they both pursue beauty, which is the point of human existence. We pursue beauty, truth, love, goodness. Pick your favorite words, but we pursue that ultimate beauty, that which makes our hearts soar. And The Hobbit, as well as Lord of the Rings, as well as the movie Miracle, as well as looking at history, we can see that men approach beauty in different ways, but beauty is objective. There is something objectively beautiful about what Gimli loves and what Legolas loves, about what elves and dwarves love, about what shepherds and farmers love, about what the East and the West love. The question is, can we come to reconcile our differences as Gimli and Legolas did? If we can, we're all the more better men for it, and better women too. I'm going to use men in the generic sense. But I pray that we can do that as a culture, and I look forward to being able to talk about some of the themes that come up in other movies as well. If there's any movies in particular that you'd like me to watch, or a movie that you want, or a book that you want me to read and talk about some of the themes that come up in that, I would love to. I started with a movie that I'm very passionate about. Well, not so much explicitly The Hobbit as Lord of the Rings, um, but I'm a fan of The Hobbit as well. I love Tolkien's literature, so if you'd like to hear more, please let me know. All right, bye.